virgin. Now, Paul's great fear is that we'll be deceived like Eve was. We'll get tricked. And boy, does that happen. From the simplicity of Christ. That we'll make this too deep, we'll make this too hard, we'll make it too hard on ourselves. We won't be able to accept forgiveness. We won't be able to accept the gift of no condemnation. We won't be able to accept that He lives in us. So we'll climb the performance ladder and we'll climb the works ladder. All the while being lied to that we're not what we are. And that's exactly what the snake did to Eve. He lies. He tells a little truth, but he tells a little lie, and she's deceived, and it all falls apart because Eve runs into a deception. And we can get into why she's deceived, and maybe we'd be right, and maybe we'd be wrong, but I want to land. Let's keep going backwards. Let's go to the garden, to Genesis chapter 3, and I want to land right at the moment when the conversation hits its apex between the serpent and Eve, because I want to establish what happens in the deception, but I also want to establish, according to the text, what doesn't happen in the deception, okay? Genesis chapter 3, the serpent and Eve have had this conversation, and then this happens in verse 6. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, that's the phrase for desirable to her eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and she ate. All right, there is the moment where Eve spots the fruit and then consumes what she's not supposed to. But this next sentence almost gets brushed over like it's just part of the story that explains what happens next, but none of us ever really dig into what this next verse doesn't say. Let me reread that and then finish the verse. The woman saw the tree, it's good for food, it's pleasant to the eyes, desirable to make you wise. She took its fruit and she ate. Watch this sentence. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. So Eve turns to Adam and hands him this fruit, and he eats. Now, when God shows up, and Adam is hiding in the bushes in his fig apron, and God goes, "Where are you, Adam?" And Adam goes, "Well, I'm hiding in the bushes because I'm naked." And God goes, "Who told you you were naked?" Which means you were naked before you realized you were naked. I didn't have a problem with it, but you have a problem with it because you're carrying something that you weren't carrying before, and it ain't just fig leaves. You're carrying fig leaves, but you're carrying something on your heart. What is it, Adam? What have you done? He goes, "Well, I ate the fruit I wasn't supposed to eat." He goes, "Why'd you eat the fruit?" "The woman you gave me gave it to me to eat." Classic man, right? He goes, "So the woman that you gave me gave it to me to eat." And then, God bless her, listen to Eve. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 13, the Lord said to the woman, what is this you've done? And the woman, she does blame the snake, but we never give her credit for what she says next. "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." So we always say that Adam blamed Eve, Eve blamed the snake. But no, Adam blames Eve, and Eve pauses and blames deception, and then the serpent. And the serpent then goes on in the Bible to represent the thing that deceives us. Eve gave it that title. It deceives me, it fights me, it stops me, it pushes against me, whatever the snake is. And by the time you get to Revelation, the snake's a dragon with multiple horns, because the snakes don't go away. The snake just gets bigger. He gets more bombastic. He gets full of lies and full of murder. And that which is left untended to doesn't just slither away and die. It just gets bigger. And that's part of the Adam and Eve story, is you do have to go confront whatever it is you don't want to confront. And you have to be on guard for being deceived by it, because deception is its game. It's how it survives. It has you comparing yourself with others, and it has you wondering if God told the truth, and it has you wondering if God is even real, and all of the deceptions that the snake throws at you are an issue, and Eve owns it. Give her credit, man. She owns the fact that, you know what happened to me? I was deceived. Adam would never admit something like that, because a man's never going to admit that what I did was fall into a lie. But the woman admits, I fell into a lie. And it might be why women are more spiritually perceptive and discerning of the truth and the lie in some ways to this day. Because I think it's owned in Genesis 3 is to go, I was deceived. So that leads me to tonight's million-dollar question. The end of verse 6. She gave it to her husband with her, and he ate. And I want to ask you, why does Adam eat? Eve eats because according to 1 Timothy 2, and according to 2 Corinthians 11, and according to Genesis 3:13, I gave you 3 proof texts. According to those 3 verses, she was deceived. So why does Adam eat? Now, I want to give you a little side stream here if I could. All right, we won't stay on this long, I promise. And I don't want to get too deep into the weeds over here, but it's worth talking about for just a second. Rabbinical tradition, stretching back pre-biblical days, have tried to explain what happened in the Garden of Eden. It's been one of the most prolifically deep Jewish streams of thought is this early story from Torah, whether it's the writings of the Mishnah or the teachings of rabbis, stretching back millennium. And the best thing that we've come up with is that Eve seduced Adam sexually into eating the fruit, and then that's why men have a proclivity to sex that women don't, and that a woman can then use that on men. And I think that's a cheap interpretation, because I don't think it at all spiritualizes what happens in the garden. I think in some ways, because of what we hear in Romans, Paul tries to stretch original sin, sort of, back to Adam, that Adam failed, but Paul leaves Eve out of it. Even though Eve sins first, but it's Adam. Like Adam should have known better.